Hi, everybody. I'm Dr. Dawn Ross. You may be familiar with me as I am the founder of the Thought Word Academy, and I also have an online community that I've formed now called Rising Tide, which is part of my New Dawn coaching metaphysical practice. And the Rising Tide community is one in which we are finding all kinds of people that can assist women at every stage of their life. And the people that I'm finding are people who are trusted individuals or very close associates of trusted individuals whom I've known for many years and I've had only good experiences with. And I want to take those experiences and their expertise and bring them to the community so that if you are a woman in need of any of the services that you see listed on the Rising Tide page, that you can and know that this is someone that is trustworthy and honest and has the same pillars of ethics and values that we all share. So with that being said, today I have with me a dear friend, and this is Seth Benkaddour. He and I have known each other for many years when I was dabbling in real estate, but he is full-on real estate agent extraordinaire. He is fantastic, has a great reputation, has always been super helpful, very ethical, the kind of person that other realtors go to ask questions to make sure, what they're doing is right and to make sure that they're getting good advice and giving excellent service. So with that being said, I'm very, very happy to welcome Seth to our community and to this chat today. So thank you for being here, Seth.
You're welcome, Dr. Dawn. It's a pleasure. I'm very honored to be here in the chat tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. And this is wonderful because I know that, this is something that I've been trying to put together for a while. And you are one of the first people in my mind I thought of that I wanted to connect with. So I want to jump in. Tonight maybe we'll only get to about 3 questions that I can ask that I'm hoping you might be able to answer, for the community.
Yes.
I'm sure there'll be a lot more that we'll come up with and we can talk on another date. So with that being said, here's my first question for you. So many of the women that are in this community, the Rise and Tide community, are navigating a lot of life transitions. That's why they're here. It can be divorce, solo home buying, maybe downsizing, relocating, whatever's happening in their life. So my question is, what's your experience in handling very sensitive or emotional situations? How do you help protect your clients' privacy and their peace of mind during, a stressful move? Because look, there's positive and negative stress. Sometimes moving into something new is exciting, but still stressful. And sometimes it's part of something in life that's, unexpected that you have to deal with. So, what do you do in those cases?
In those cases, for something like unexpected, when people get a divorce but they want to keep it quiet, if I'm showing like a property or if I'm selling a property, they ask, why is the seller moving? I just say, listen, the seller just wants to move and just make a new change. I don't like to say get divorced because that's very personal. And I understand, clients and sellers, they want to keep their personal lives just very private.
And that being said, and what do you do to help, if they're stressed out, if it's a really emotional time, what do you do to help them, get through that?
So if we're like if we get an offer, I'm going to give an example because, Dawn, being in real estate, sometimes you don't always get the offer you want. I always say, listen, I think you should counter, but think about it, sleep about it, meditate about it. The next day, come back. We have till, I'm going to give you examples. Say if we have till Tuesday, you could think about it, talk to, family members that are in your circle, see what you can do. And I'm always here to help with any questions. And I always provide comps and tell you what you're selling because I know buying, selling, it's very emotional because it's a big decision. You're selling a house where you've been for many years. You created many memories. You've had lots of good times, bad times. And it's sometimes scary to give something like that up, but it's also a blessing because you could start at, something even better at the next place.
Right. And then what about, when there are people who are, let's say they're confused, they're unsure about what to do. They've been thrust into a situation, maybe because of a divorce or because they, lost their job and now they can't afford where they're living. What do you do in those cases? How do you help them?
So in those cases, if I get a call and they're saying, hey, I'm going to get a divorce, I need to sell this ASAP, The first thing I do is say, okay, like I'll be over there tomorrow. I want to email you comps. This is what the house will sell for. This is what I think we should list it at. So there's a little bit of wiggle room because I want them to try to make as best of a profit as they can. Because when you don't have a job and you're getting a divorce, you're usually just starting from ground zero again. You have to build yourself back up. And I'm very
Hmm.
realistic with everything. And then it's up to the client to see which direction they want to go.
And what about people who are buying something?
Buying
How do you,
something,
that's,
how do I navigate that? I usually navigate that is I make sure that they're pre-approved or if they're paying cash. And if they're paying cash, I ask for a letter of proof of funds because when we submit an offer, every seller is going to want to see how this is being paid for. Same thing if I'm representing somebody on a sales side, I want to see proof of funds and I want to see a pre-approval letter so I know that we're approved. And then I ask for a condition, then I ask for a loan commitment, after like the first 15 days. So I know that we're guaranteed to get the loan. Because if you don't have that loan commitment, then you're guaranteed not to get the loan because you could get pre-approved, but then you have like the inspection period, then you have the loan approval period as well. So I want to make sure that's all lined up.
so for somebody who's new to this and I know there's a lot of vernacular you're using that I'm familiar with because, like I said, I did some real estate for a while. I have my license active, but most of this for my own personal needs. But what about, with somebody who's just brand new to all of this, is, maybe just finally saved up enough and, needs to find a place, wants to buy a place. How do you educate them, on the steps that they need?
So I usually educate them. Have a conversation with them. I usually ask like, how much do you have saved if this is your first home? I ask how much do they have saved. I ask if they're pre-approved, and I make sure they have a good credit score. Because usually, if you have a credit score at least above a 750, you're going to get a better rate. Still, you can still buy something with a 700 credit score. You're not going to get as good as a rate, but I want to make sure they get the best rate possible. And then I usually put them in touch with a mortgage broker that could qualify them. So what they ask when they get qualified is they want to see the last 2 or 3 years of tax returns, bank statements. They want to make sure they have a job, a W-2, if not self-employed, a 1099, or a profit and loss if they're self-employed as well. And then that mortgage person will determine what they're pre-approved for.
All right, three. Okay, so one of the questions I wanted to ask is, when you have somebody who is going through a difficult transition, maybe they're getting divorced, they got fired, or they're thinking about leaving an abusive situation and they're trying to figure out, what they can do and where they can go. How do you handle those people in a sensitive situation like that?
Well, when they come to me in these sensitive situations, I try to be very, discreet as possible and just very private. Like I said, if people ask, if a seller asks me, oh, this buyer, like, what do you know the story? Oh yeah, they're just new to the area and they just want to change and they want to, they like the neighborhood and this is where they want to be. Same thing with a landlord. Oh, they're just new to the area and they really like the neighborhood and this is where they want to be. I always say that for both because I like to protect people's privacy because these are very sensitive, these are very sensitive subjects and it can be very emotional and I would never want to, upset the buyer or potential tenant. Same thing with selling as well.
Okay.
I like to protect everybody because it's good to just have your privacy. And if somebody is having like a difficult time, I'm always here. They can call me. I always walk them off the ledge because this is not easy making a big life decision.
And I always feel confident when I try to send someone your way because I know that you're sensitive to it. You have empathy. You're going to listen to what's going on. You don't look at people as just dollar signs over their heads. You're there to, really just help them, and do best by your client, to make sure that they're able to, get whatever it is they need, what's going to work for them. And I think that's important because that's what gives you the reputation that you have, because you could just try to throw somebody into anything and they could end up very unhappy and have it not work out, and that would just leave a trail of bodies behind that would give you a very poor reputation at that point, which is why I
Yeah.
think it's proof to who you are that you have such a good reputation and people do feel comfortable coming to you.
Yes, and I always think of it this way. Would I want to put myself in somewhere where I wouldn't want to be? I wouldn't. So that's why I always tell people, usually the buying process usually takes like 3 to 4 months. And then the renting usually takes a month, if you want to find somewhere to rent to live.
Okay. Fantastic. So, so my second question is a core pillar of this, network of women is about empowering through education. So, when you have somebody who has never been through this process, or at least never been through it alone, are there any things that you offer, like, a workshop or like a step-by-step framework or something you can use to help build their confidence so they don't just feel completely, frightened and overwhelmed?
Usually, like I said, with somebody that's like brand new, that's starting off on their own, I usually put them in touch with a banker. That's what I usually do. And I always tell them, listen, you can call me about anything. And once we hear from the banker, then I'll start sending you stuff, because I want to make sure you're pre-approved. Because last thing you want to do, for an example, Dawn, is somebody just starting off, say like if I show them like a $350,000 condo, they're in love. Then all of a sudden the banker calls me and says, oh my God, they're only approved for 150. They're going to be devastated. And they're, like I said, right now they're all starting, they're making some kind of change. It's very emotional and very difficult. So I want to make sure everything's done 100% correct.
Right. So you would walk them through the steps and explain, this is what we do first, we get you
Yep.
pre-approved, and then from there, you look at the comps, you give them, different places, and, you start looking at some areas, and then, how does that work from there? Do you usually go out with them and show them places, or?
Yes, once we get approved, I send them places online. They look at it. They say, okay, I want to see this, this, and that. I always tell them, pick your best four, because I don't want to do 6 or 7. They get too confused in one day. I like to do 4 a day, and then they could kind of see, then they can get it. Because once you show somebody that's looking 6 or 7 places in one day, they get confused.
Yeah, yeah.
And then I tell
It's
them, and then
true.
I let them go home, and I just say, listen, think about it if you want to text me later. Because sometimes people are going to know right away which one they liked, which one they didn't. And, they say, okay, I like 1 and 2, but I want to look at a few more just to be on the safe side. That's fine. Or they just say, you know what? Out of these ones, that's my first choice. This is my second choice, and eliminate the other 2.
Right, right.
Everybody moves
And then
differently,
you,
as you know.
right. And then you walk them through the whole process, from making the offers, and then if, it does get accepted, then, what happens after that as
Then we do an
well.
inspection, and then after the inspection, sometimes there's negotiating, sometimes there's not. Lately, there's been a little more negotiating, maybe a few thousand off, or we just ask the seller to do some repairs. And then after we agree on that, we get an addendum in writing saying, for an example, some sellers will just, give like a credit towards closing. That's what they would rather do than say, oh, this needs to be repaired because it's going to alarm the bank.
Right. Got it.
So,
Okay. That makes sense.
yep. And then after that, we do the appraisal. And then we always put an appraisal contingency in a contract, because if something happens, I don't want to be liable for somebody losing their deposit. Then when the appraisal comes back, then we're good. We give it back to underwriting. And then after that, the loan should be closed out within 2 weeks.
Okay. And so you, on a good, let's say average purchase or sale, how long does it usually take for a closing?
It just depends. If there's an HOA, it could be 30 to 45 days. If it's just a regular, single family house, no neighborhood, it could be 25, 30 days. It just depends. If it's a cash deal, it could be 2 weeks, it could be a month. It just depends on what needs to happen. And sometimes in
Right,
certain
right.
situations you can close, but the seller will ask for a seller post occupancy for an additional 30 days. So they have somewhere to go, or vice versa. And that's pretty normal as well.
And so one of the things you were talking about here, and I know when I was doing real estate, I was only ever doing it part-time, but even when I did it, once I found people I liked and I trusted, I was like, okay, these are my people, these are my go-to people. So, if if a woman's going to be, let's say, purchasing a home, then she's going to want to know, the trusted mortgage brokers, the inspectors, the contractors, moving services, all of that. So I know, since you've been doing this for a while, do you have a group of people that you tend to work with, that you trust and that would give your clients the same kind of care and respect that you do?
Yes, I have an inspector I work very closely with. I have 2 that I trust 100%. I have a title person that does closings that I have a good relationship with. Like, I trust her 100%. Movers, I know of a few, but like I said, I mostly deal with the inspectors, and I mostly deal with the title and lawyers and closing people.
And the mortgage brokers as well?
And the mortgage brokers, I know too, but like I said, some of those people, They usually find it on their own usually. So, like I said, I still try to refer, but at the end of the day, if they have somebody on their own, I don't like to push anything because, some people have their people.
Okay.
And
And
sometimes
so,
finances, Dawn, as you know, people can be very private and a little funny about it. They want to keep that private and quiet to themselves.
sure, sure, sure. So, if people want to, use your services, what areas do you service? Where can you work with people if they need you to?
I usually do like Palm Beach County, like, my main area
In
in real estate
Florida.
in Florida is Palm Beach County, like Palm Beach Island, all the way down to Boca. I do Miami, I do Vero Beach, I do Port St. Lucie, I do Stewart, but my main area is right there. But I always, if somebody needs my assistance in purchasing a home, I'm more than happy to go anywhere.
Okay, so are there other areas outside of Florida that you can help somebody with if there's something they're looking to do, or how does that work?
So they can contact me and I could put them in touch with an agent that I can refer out because I'm only licensed to sell in the state of Florida.
But if they want to talk, and you help them as far as you can and say, okay, but
Yes,
now
I can
you.
still speak with them and I can get them in touch with the other agent. I can tell them, listen, if you have any questions, let me know. I can still walk them through stuff.
It's impressive. And so, is there anything that you want to share or say tonight, and what you think would be good advice for women who are in a position where they're looking to purchase or rent, and this is new to them? Anything that you think is like a pitfall or something you should pay attention to or
Yes,
ask?
as your credit score. Make sure your credit score is at least above a 750 if you can. I understand people have hard times, and when you get out of bad situations, sometimes you're starting for rock bottom, but make sure you fix your credit before you buy and try to save for a down payment.
Okay, and I think we can do another section where we can talk a little bit more about what that looks like so people can understand what to
Yes.
expect, as far as how much and what they need to come up with, and maybe even some tips of what people can do to improve their credit scores as well.
Yes.
Okay, well, listen, this has been really informative. And if people need to get in touch with you, how can they get in touch with you?
They can call me, text me, or they can email me.
Okay, so you'll give me all that info and put that here on the so people can find that. All right, well, thank you again, Seth, so much for your time. I really
No,
appreciate it. Thank
Dr.
you so
Dawn,
much
thank
for
you
being part
again.
of our group. That's what is the most important, to be able to offer services to women, whether they're local or anywhere that we can. And I really appreciate your time and being part of the group.
Dawn, I really appreciate you, Dr. Dawn. Thank you again for everything. And I'm glad we've been friends for such a long time. And I'm always here for anything. And God bless.
Appreciate it. You're the best. Take care. Have a
Take
good
care.
night.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.